Okay, this is my second attempt at embroidery following Cristiana's method, and this I don't expect to work because this is the tree that I want to do in green silk, and it already has a backing piece and batting. So I don't think this is going to work through batting, but I want to try it. And I'm sorry the other videos seem to be dark. I have a couple of lights here. Just grab my glasses. So what I don't expect to go well is that it'll go through all of these layers, and so that I don't mess up all the green and use silk, I'm going to stay with the black for a minute and just put a line next to the trunk that would darken the trunk, just to see if it'll work with batting. So this is just to get the bobbin thread up, because this would be a little bit more tricky, because to use your fingers to keep the fabric taut to replace a hoop, you really have to push down now because of the 2 layers and the batting. You don't want the back piece of fabric to shift differently. And look at this, it is working. Now, I know my finger is probably in the way, but if I put a lot of pressure on the fabric, I have the same success that I had with the dog. So now what I can think about is actually, I'm trying to stick with black thread, but it may not really be feasible simply because I have an awful lot of thread. So there I let up a little bit on the pressure and the stitch didn't form. But now what I can think about is possibly putting the silk thread in the machine and doing the tree in silk, even though it's got a layer of batting and a backing fabric already. So this would actually even work on quilts or quilt squares, except I think the preferred method, because of the pressure you have to put to keep that like that, the preferred method would probably to be doing it on a single piece of fabric, and maybe with an interfacing behind it or something, depending on your fabric, and then attach it to a quilt square. But that's where the background quilting would come in. And obviously I did Coco's image with a black background, which is kind of a shocking, black cross-hatching is nothing but black. But if I did the same cross-hatching around the tree, say in a pale blue on the upper half and brown on the bottom, then I've got a picture of a tree. These could be Christmas cards. They could be tree awareness cards you hand out to somebody and say, you know, don't cut down trees, or go plant a tree or something. But I digress, is I think how they say that. I don't want to wander off into save the planet right now. So as soon as I don't have enough pressure on that, the fabric is too thick. So you lose a little bit of the control if you don't keep the pressure on the fabric. But this really is like drawing with a pen or writing. because when you draw or write, you're also paying very much attention where each mark goes. But with drawing or writing, your paper is most of the time perfectly flat and doesn't move. But an advantage for antique machines with this is that I'm not using a hoop that's going to scratch the machine. And I have just bandana fabric on the back. I think this would work. It is working for this one, but I think that I would use 2 layers of muslin the way I have it on the other one before I would try to do this on quilt squares that are already put together. Or if I did do it this way all the time, I would know that each one was going to take me longer. So I hope you can see that a little better than the first one. So you want to keep your fingers completely, and I have ink all over my fingers, so excuse that, but you want to keep your fingers with pressure on that fabric. Now if I put silk in this machine and do the branches, they're very, very detailed. Each branch might take me an hour or maybe 45 minutes, depending on how detailed. But imagine, you can all imagine, you know what a Christmas tree looks like. This is an eastern white pine. They have very fine needles, so very fine stitches and green silk would be a wonderful depiction of a tree. And look at that, it worked. I just want to check. I'm clipping the threads along so that I can either pull them through to the other side, and no bobbin loops. It'll be difficult to see. No loopy bobbin. And just that one black line next to the brown alpaca. But that's through polyester batting, bandana fabric, which is fairly thin, and an old sheet. And it still worked. Attempt 2.